The Mott Street Mauler, an American Tale. For the mice of New York City in the summer of 1885, the problem had gotten totally out of control. The cats, specifically a terribly vicious gang known as the Mott Street Maulers, had been terrorizing the mice of the city. Constant raids had destroyed families, wiped out businesses and homes, and generally brought ruin and destruction to the millions of hard-working immigrant mice who had recently arrived in New York from the many nations of Europe. Two of these mice, Fievel Mousequits, a Russian immigrant, and his new friend Tony Toponi, from Italy, were part of a small crowd gathered on a street corner. The crowd was listening to an Irish mouse named Bridget speak about the problem. "We can't just stand by and let the cats wreck our lives," shouted Bridget. Several mice in the crowd got nervous. "Shh, not so loud. They'll hear you," came the cry from the crowd. "This is America," said Bridget. "We can say what we want." Fievel was puzzled. "But Tony," he said, "when we were in Russia, my father told me that there were no cats in America." Before Tony had a chance to respond, the crowd had scattered. "What's the matter?" wondered Fievel. "Where's everyone going?" Fievel turned round only to see the dreaded Mott Street Maulers creeping up behind him. A razor-sharp claw swung at Fievel as he darted for safety. The Maulers struck with terrible fury. They smashed the little carts that lined the street, sending fruit and vegetables flying everywhere. They broke windows, ripped awnings, and generally tore the area to shreds. Then, just as quickly as they had come, they left to do more damage in another part of the city. "Are you all right, Fievel?" asked Tony as he came out of his hiding place. "I think so," answered Fievel. "But we've got to do something about these cats. I think I know someone who can help," said Bridget as she dusted herself off. The three mice went to see Gussie Moschheimer, a German mouse, who was the richest and most powerful mouse in New York. "These cat attacks are terrible," said Gussie. "We must hold a rally of many mice to try to come up with a solution." And so a huge rally was held the next day. Mice from all over the city attended to try to solve the cat problem. "We all came to America for freedom from cats," began Gussie. "So what are we going to do about those terrible Mott Street Maulers?" The crowd grew silent. It seemed that nobody had any ideas. Then Fievel stepped up to Gussie and whispered in her ear. "My father used to tell me a story," started Fievel, "about the giant mouse of Minsk back in Russia. This mouse was so big that it scared all the cats away." "Very nice," said Gussie, at first dismissing Fievel's idea as nothing more than an old fairy tale. Then she thought for a moment. "That's it," she exclaimed. "Listen, everybody. I have a plan." That night, thousands of mice went to work. Some gathered rocks and wood to build walls on either side of a narrow street. This street started at the top of a hill and led right down to the docks at the river. Other mice worked on a large wall that ran across the street at the very top of the hill. Still more mice went to work using a large cart and huge pieces of material. They were constructing their own version of the legendary giant mouse of Minsk. Meanwhile, Fievel, who was helping to build one of the walls, heard strange music coming from beneath a manhole cover in the street. Fievel's curiosity got the better of him, and he followed the music down under the ground through the sewers of New York. Soon Fievel found himself looking into a window. Much to his shock, what he saw was the headquarters of the Mott Street Maulers. Just as Fievel was about to run away, he was discovered by the Maulers, captured, and locked in a cage. Fievel sat in a corner of his cage feeling very unhappy. Not only could he not help the mice build their trap, but he was worried that he'd never escape from the Maulers. He put his head into his hands and began to cry. Luckily for Fievel, his guard was a friendly cat named Tiger. "Hey, what's the matter?" asked Tiger. "I'll never get out of here," cried Fievel. "Those cats are going to eat me." "Eat you?" exclaimed Tiger. "Well, no way. I mean, I'd never eat you. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, I hate mice. For dinner, that is. I mean, I like you. Do you like me?" "Oh, don't cry." Tiger really did like Fievel. He didn't fit in with the bullies of the Mott Street Maulers. "Listen," started Tiger. "What if I open the cage door and look the other way?" Fievel stopped crying and looked up. "Would you really do that for me?" asked the little mouse. "Of course. Look at this," said Tiger as he opened the cage door. Suddenly an alarm sounded. "Oh no!" he cried, "I forgot all about that." Fievel leaped out of the cage. "Thank you," he said. "Don't thank me," said Tiger. "Just hurry." At that moment, the rest of the Mott Street Maulers burst into the room. Fievel ran out and the chase was on. As luck would have it, the Maulers chased Fievel out onto the very street where the mice had set their trap. "Release the secret weapon," shouted Gussie Mosheimer. Suddenly something crashed through the wall at the top of the hill. It was the giant mouse of Minsk that the mice had constructed. The huge structure rolled down the hill towards the terrified cats who were fleeing before it. Because the mice had built walls on either side of the street, the cats had nowhere to run but straight down the hill. At the bottom of the hill, all the cats ran onto the dock. When they turned round, the giant mouse was still rolling towards them. The only place left for them to go was a boat at the end of the dock. The cats leapt onto the boat just as it pulled away, heading for Hong Kong, far away from the mice of New York. All the mice ran into the street cheering and celebrating. "It worked!" shouted Gussie. "We did it." "Well," said Fievel, "I suppose now I'm right." "What do you mean?" asked Gussie. "Now there really are no cats in America," exclaimed Fievel. The mice laughed and continued celebrating long into the night. The end.